The stars stretched endlessly, cold and silent. But the silence was broken by fire. The Thalvori Union, a peaceful coalition of alien worlds, had once believed their corner of the galaxy was safe. They built libraries that touched the clouds, cities that shone with glass and light, and ships that carried trade instead of war. Their people valued knowledge, harmony, and cooperation. They believed true strength lay in peace, but peace had made them blind. The Krith Dominion came without warning. Their fleets fell on Thalvori colonies like a storm. Black armored warships poured fire on defenseless planets. The Krith were a species forged in conquest. Their creed was simple. The weak existed to serve, and those who resisted deserved only ash. The Union's fleets designed for patrol and escort stood no chance. Their small defense ships cracked like glass against Krith battlecruisers. Within weeks, 3 outer colonies had burned, their skies filled with smoke. The survivors were taken as captives, chained for labor in Krith mines. The Union Council sat in despair. Leaders argued, cried, and begged for answers. Their once proud star maps were now covered with red lines marking the enemy's advance. For the first time in centuries, they saw no future. Yet, one hope remained, a relic from the past. Deep inside the Union capital, on a moon known as Valora, there lay a device hidden in stone halls older than the Union itself. It was called the Eternal Beacon. Long ago, ancient engineers had designed it as a universal distress call, a signal meant to travel faster and farther than anything the Union could build today. It could cut through the noise of the galaxy, sending a single plea for aid across the stars. But no one had activated it for hundreds of years. The council debated fiercely. "What if it brings enemies instead of friends?" asked Councillor Lurith, her voice trembling. "Anyone who can hear it may already be more powerful than us," another warned. "Better to surrender to the Krith than invite worse upon us." But the youngest councillor, a silver-skinned alien named Kalen, stood firm. "If we do nothing, we will vanish. If we send the call, perhaps, just perhaps, someone will hear us. Someone who believes in more than conquest." At last, desperation triumphed over fear. The beacon was lit. The device roared to life. Energy thrummed through its ancient circuits, and a single message was cast into the infinite dark. "We are the Thalvori Union. We face destruction. If any who hear this believe in freedom and hope, please answer. We beg you." The beacon's cry stretched outward, leaping from star to star, carried on waves unknown to modern science. It crossed gulfs where no Union ship had ever flown. It whispered across ancient ruins and frozen worlds. It drifted past silent black holes and through the arms of galaxies. And then, against all odds, it reached a small blue world orbiting a yellow sun. Earth. On Earth, the Terran communications array detected the signal almost by accident. At first, engineers thought it was noise. The signal was weak, fractured by distance and filled with alien tones. But when they cleaned it, the message became clear. The words shook those who heard them. It was not just a recording. It was a cry of fear, a cry for survival. The news spread quickly. The United Terran Council gathered, leaders from across Earth and her colonies sitting in grim silence as the message was replayed. "They are begging us," one said quietly. "They are not human," another replied. "But they are alive," countered a third. The chamber filled with argument. Some called it a trap. Others said Earth had enough problems of its own. Why risk human lives for strangers light years away? Yet others reminded them. Humanity had once been small and weak too. Once, long ago, Earth had faced empires greater than herself. Had no one helped, humanity might not have survived. In the end, the vote was close, but it was made. Humanity would answer. When the Thalvori Council received a reply weeks later, they could hardly believe it. Their translator machines worked feverishly to decode the alien words. "This is the Terran Expeditionary Command. Your message has been received. Hold your ground." "We are coming." Shock rippled through the chamber. The Thalvori had never heard of Terrans. Their star maps held no record of such a people. Who were they? What strength could they have? Councillor Lurith shook her head. "Perhaps they are wanderers, pirates in stolen ships. They will come, demand tribute, and leave us broken." But Kalen leaned forward, eyes burning with hope. "No, listen to the tone of their words. Not greed, not threats, promise. They mean to fight for us." Still doubts remained. The Thalvori had lived too long in peace to believe anyone could stand against the Krith. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations began in silence and steel. The Terran Expeditionary Fleet was summoned. Warships rose from orbital docks, black silhouettes against Earth's sky. Each vessel carried scars from humanity's long history of conflict. Wars on Earth, rebellions on colonies, battles against nature itself. They were not graceful like Thalvori ships. They were weapons, every line forged with purpose. Commanders drilled their crews day and night. Marines loaded weapons. Engineers fine-tuned reactors. Pilots tested strikecraft. Humanity had learned through bitter centuries that survival belonged not to the strongest, but to those willing to fight hardest. For humanity was born on a death world. A planet of storms, earthquakes, predators, and endless struggle. Every child of Earth carried the resilience of generations who had battled nature itself. Where other species saw danger, humans saw only another challenge to endure. When word spread that aliens had called for help, thousands volunteered. Soldiers, doctors, engineers, even civilians begged to be part of the mission. Humanity was not just sending a fleet, they were sending a message. The galaxy would know. If you cry for aid, the Deathworlders will answer. Back in Thalvori space, the Krith pressed closer. Their massive fleet gathered like a shadow on the edge of the stars. Every day reports came of new losses. The Union's last defenses crumbled one by one. On Velora's moon, Kalen stood on the balcony of the council hall, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, these mysterious Terrans were coming. But would they arrive in time? Would they even be strong enough to challenge the Krith? Behind him, Counselor Lurith approached. "You put too much faith in shadows," she said softly. "No one can stand against the Krith, not even your Terrans." Kalen did not turn. His gaze remained fixed on the night sky. "Then let them try. Better to fall with hope than live forever in chains." Far away, deep in the dark between galaxies, the Terran fleet burned its engines. Rows of starships cut through the void, their wakes blazing with fire. From carriers to frigates, cruisers to dreadnoughts, the humans carried their determination like a second weapon. On the bridge of the flagship TNS Valiant, Admiral Reyes stood tall, hands clasped behind his back. His voice rang through the command channel. "Aliens cried for help. We will show them what it means when humanity answers. The Krith will learn today what it means to challenge Deathworlders." And with that, the fleet plunged into the unknown. The Thalvori waited, trembling between hope and despair. The Krith advanced, certain of their victory. And humanity came, unseen, unexpected, unstoppable. The galaxy was about to change forever. The message from the Thalvori Union had reached Earth, and with it came silence that filled every hall of the United Terran Council. Leaders, admirals, scientists, and diplomats sat in a vast circular chamber high above the clouds of Earth. The beacon's words echoed again, replayed by translators, soft but heavy with desperation. "We are the Thalvori Union. We face destruction. If any who hear this believe in freedom, in hope, please answer. We beg you." For a long time, no one spoke. Each person present understood the weight of what had just been heard. This was not a trick of static or noise. This was real. Somewhere out in the stars, another civilization was dying. "The debate begins," Counselor Miriam Zhao, her sharp eyes scanning the room, broke the silence first. "Strangers," she said calmly. "We know nothing of them. They may call themselves peaceful, but how do we know? For all we know, this is a trap." General Cale Dorn, a man built like stone, leaned forward. His voice was like gravel. "Trap or not, the Krith Dominion is real. Our intelligence files speak of them. Fragmented records from long-range probes. They are conquerors. If they crush the Thalvori today, what stops them from marching toward us tomorrow?" Across the chamber, President Alina Serrano folded her hands. She was younger than many, but her calm presence carried authority. "We must ask ourselves a question," she said softly. "Are we willing to risk human lives for a people we have never seen? Or do we turn away and let them be destroyed?" The chamber erupted. Voices rose, some shouting for caution, others for action. One governor argued, "Our colonies on Europa still lack protection. Should we send our fleets across the stars when our own people may be in danger?" A scientist countered, "If the Krith spread unchecked, Europa will be the least of our worries. We will face them eventually." Another diplomat whispered, "We were once weak too. Remember Earth's own history. When we cried out, no one came. Do we let history repeat itself for another race? A vote in the dark for hours, the council debated. Words turned sharp, voices weary. Some argued that humanity's duty was to itself. Others argued that morality demanded action. At last, President Serrano stood. The chamber quieted. "The beacon came to us," she said, her voice steady. "We may be strangers, but the message was not meant for strangers. It was meant for anyone who still believes in freedom. If we do nothing, we may survive a little longer. But what will we become? A people who turned their backs when hope called to us?" She raised her hand. "Let us vote." The chamber's floor lit up, each delegate casting their choice. One by one, small lights appeared, blue for action, red for refusal. The balance hung dangerously close. At last, the final tally glowed. Action. By the narrowest of margins, the decision was made. Humanity would answer the call. Preparing the fleet, the order spread through the military faster than fire. Across Earth and her colonies, the Terran Expeditionary Fleet was awakened. On the docks above Earth, the massive flagship TNS Valiant powered up her reactors. Her black hull gleamed under the light of the sun, scars of old battles etched into her sides. She was joined by the Resolute, the Horizon, the Ironheart, and dozens of cruisers, carriers, and destroyers. In orbit around Mars, shipyards worked day and night to arm smaller vessels. Crews scrambled aboard. Engineers raced to load supplies, weapons, and fuel. Every corridor echoed with boots and voices. Soldiers were summoned from every corner of the Terran colonies. Marines drilled endlessly, their chants echoing in metal halls. Pilots ran simulations, learning how to fly in formations tight as blades. Doctors prepared medical bays, knowing the battles ahead would demand courage not only from fighters but also from healers. One Marine captain, Elena Rios, stood before her squad in the docking bay of the Valiant. "Some of you are asking why we fight for aliens we've never seen," she said. Her voice carried through the bay, firm and sharp. "But I'll tell you why. Because if it were Earth calling for help, wouldn't we hope someone would answer? Because if the Krith reach us, we will wish we had allies. And because Deathworlders don't ignore cries for help, we answer them with everything we have." Her soldiers roared in reply, their fists striking their armor. The Deathworlder spirit, humanity's strength, was not just in ships or weapons. It was in spirit. Unlike the Talvore, humans had grown on a dangerous world. Earth was a planet of fire and storm, of earthquakes, predators, and disasters. Every generation had fought to survive. Wars, famines, diseases, and endless challenges had shaped them. Other species often thought humans reckless, even dangerous. They took risks where others would hesitate. They fought with strategies that seemed wild but often worked. They could endure pain, hunger, and loss longer than most. And now, for the first time, this spirit would reach beyond their own kind. When the alien beacon was broadcast publicly, millions of civilians wept at the sound of the Thalvore's voice. Thousands volunteered to join supply ships, medical missions, or engineering teams. Even those who could not fight sent messages, food, and aid to the fleet. It was not just a war mission anymore. It was a human mission. A chance to show the galaxy what it meant to come from Earth. Admiral Reyes takes command. At the heart of the fleet stood Admiral Marcus Reyes, a veteran of countless campaigns. Tall, with gray streaks in his hair, he had seen the worst of war and carried the lessons of every battle. Standing on the bridge of the Valiant, he gazed at the fleet forming outside the viewport. Hundreds of ships lined up in disciplined formation, engines glowing like stars. He activated the command channel. His voice was calm, but it carried power. "Crew of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet," he began. "You have heard the beacon. You know why we go. Some of you may doubt. Some may fear. That is natural. But I tell you this, today we do not fight for conquest. We do not fight for greed. We fight because someone called for help and we were the ones who heard." He paused, his eyes sweeping across his officers. "We are Deathworlders. Our ancestors fought storms, beasts, and one another, and still we rose. Today we carry that fire into the stars. The Krith believe the galaxy belongs to them. Let us teach them otherwise." The fleet erupted in cheers. Across dozens of ships, crews shouted as one. Engines roared to life. Humanity was ready. The journey begins. The path to Talvore space was long. Faster than light drives hummed, folding space and leaping across the void. The fleet moved like a spear, its tip aimed at the heart of danger. Inside the ships, tension grew. Marines cleaned their weapons again and again even when they were spotless. Pilots checked and rechecked their fighters. Officers studied every scrap of Krith data, preparing for an enemy no one had yet faced directly. Admiral Reyes often walked the decks, speaking to soldiers and crew. He listened to their fears and hopes. His calm presence was a steady flame in the storm of uncertainty. And yet, as the fleet traveled, something remarkable happened. Doubt slowly gave way to unity. Humanity had chosen this path together, and now they carried it forward as one. Meanwhile, in Thalvorai space, the Thalvorai Union waited in fear. Each day brought news of new attacks. The Krith drew closer to the core worlds. Refugee ships fled burning colonies, their holds filled with terrified families. On Valora, Counselor Kalen stood in the Grand Hall, his eyes fixed on the stars projected above. "They said they are coming," he whispered. Counselor Lurith shook her head. "And if they fail? If they are crushed like we were?" Kalen's voice was quiet but strong. "Then at least we will know we were not alone at the end." The council chamber fell silent. For the first time, there was a spark of something strange in their hearts, hope mixed with fear. The final preparations, as the Terran fleet neared its destination, the scale of what they faced became clear. Recon probes sent ahead showed images of Krith ships, vast, dark, and bristling with weapons. Their fleets dwarfed anything humanity had fought before. Admiral Reyes studied the data. His officers exchanged worried looks. "Outnumbered, outgunned," muttered one. Reyes only nodded. "Good, that means we'll have to fight smarter." He turned to his crew, his voice steady. "The Krith do not know us. They think us weak. Let us show them what Deathworlders truly are." Orders spread. Battle plans were drawn. Strike teams were assigned. Every ship prepared as though tomorrow would be the greatest test in human history. And in the cold silence of space, the Terran expeditionary fleet surged forward, toward war, toward destiny, toward a future where the galaxy would never again doubt the courage of Earth's children. The Thalvorai had called, and the Deathworlders were coming. The stars above the Thalvorai capital burned faintly, almost mocking the silence of a world waiting for its doom. In the council hall, leaders gathered again. Every hour they received reports of Krith forces closing in. Every hour more colonies fell. The maps before them bled red with enemy markers. Counselor Lurith's voice trembled as she spoke. "The Krith fleet will reach us within 3 days. We cannot resist them. We cannot run." The chamber was silent. Some leaders wept quietly. Others sat frozen, too drained for fear. Only Kalen, the youngest among them, still looked to the stars. His voice cut through the despair. The Terrans promised they would come, but even he felt his chest tighten. He had not seen these Terrans. None of them had. What if they were only a handful of ships? What if they were too late? The shadow of the Krith far across the void. The Krith armada gathered like a storm. Dozens of massive dreadnoughts, black as voidstone, moved in disciplined lines. Their hulls gleamed with cruel edges, and their weapons pulsed with firepower that had shattered entire fleets. On the flagship Korath, Warlord Varix watched the holographic map. His eyes burned with pride. Another world would soon fall, another people chained. "Their defenses are weak," his strategist reported. "We will take the capital in days," Varix sneered. "Then crush them quickly. Weak species should not linger in the galaxy." To the Krith, this was not a war. It was simply another harvest. A tear in the sky on the second day, when despair weighed heavy on the Thalvorai, something strange happened. The night sky above Valora shimmered. At first many thought it a trick of the eyes, a star flickering strangely. But then light ripped across the heavens, bending space itself. A massive silhouette emerged from the rift. Then another. And another, ships dark, angular, and bristling with weapons. The Terran fleet tore into real space. Their hulls gleamed with scars, their engines burned bright. One by one, hundreds of vessels appeared, filling the sky like a second constellation. The Thalvorai gasped. Many fell silent in awe, their hearts hammering. Others cried openly, relief flooding them for the first time in weeks. "They came," Kalen whispered. The Terrans kept their word. First Contact Admiral Marcus Reyes stood on the bridge of the TNS Valiant, the flagship of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. His eyes swept the readouts. Dozens of Thalvorai signals flickered weakly on the scanners, surrounded by the burning remains of their colonies. Beyond them, massive signatures marked the Krith advance. Reyes spoke calmly. Open a channel to the Thalvori. Static filled the comms for a moment before clearing. On the screen appeared Kalen, his silver skin gleaming under the faint light of his chamber. His eyes widened at the sight of Reyes and the human officers standing beside him. "This is Counselor Kalen of the Thalvori Union," he said, voice shaky. Are you truly Terrans?" Reyes gave a single nod. "We are. Your call was heard." "We stand with you," Kalen's voice cracked. "You came. You truly came. For the first time in weeks." Hope returned to the Thalvori halls. The Krith react, but hope was not shared by all. In the Krith flagship Korath, alarms blared as Terran ships filled the scanners. Dozens of captains shouted in confusion. They had expected an easy conquest, not a fleet of strangers appearing out of nowhere. "Unknown warships," the strategist growled. "Their numbers." "Significant," Warlord Varric snarled, his fangs bared. "Fools, it matters not. They are intruders. Destroy them." Orders spread across the Krith fleet. Dreadnoughts shifted position. Cruisers locked weapons. Fighters launched like swarms of dark insects. The storm was about to break. The First Class Admiral Reyes turned to his officers. "The Krith are forming attack lines. Good. Let them come." The bridge fell quiet, every soldier bracing. Reyes raised his hand. "All ships prepare to engage." And then the void exploded. The Krith opened fire first. Red beams of plasma carved through space, slamming into Terran shields. Explosions lit the void, but the Terrans answered instantly. Railguns thundered, their projectiles tearing through Krith armor. Missile swarms streaked from human ships, weaving through enemy fire before detonating in blinding bursts. Fighter wings dove and danced, weaving patterns too chaotic for Krith targeting systems. The Krith were disciplined, but they were used to easy victories. The Terrans fought differently, reckless, adaptive, and fierce. One Terran destroyer, the TNS Valor, was targeted by 3 Krith cruisers. Instead of retreating, the destroyer surged forward, shields burning, and rammed into the nearest cruiser at point-blank range. Its railguns fired at near-zero distance, ripping the enemy ship apart before spinning free. The Krith commanders watched in shock. No species fought like this. The Thalvori watch on Velora, the battle was broadcast across every screen. The Thalvori people watched in silence as the Terran fleet clashed with the Krith. Children pressed against their parents, eyes wide as they saw black human ships darting like blades through fire. Soldiers cheered as missiles struck true. Elders wept, seeing someone finally stand against the darkness. Counselor Lurith whispered, stunned. "They are not cautious. They are not hesitant. They fight as if born for war." Kalen nodded slowly. "They are Deathworlders. Every story they told us is true." The turning point, the Krith pressed harder. Their dreadnoughts advanced, unleashing torrents of fire. Whole sections of space seemed to burn, but humanity had planned for this. Admiral Reyes gave sharp orders, and the fleet shifted into new formations. Terran ships feigned retreat, drawing the Krith into tight pursuit. At the last moment, hidden Terran frigates uncloaked behind the enemy lines, unleashing volleys that tore into the Krith rear. Chaos erupted. The Krith, unaccustomed to enemies who adapted so quickly, faltered. Their formations broke. Terran Marines launched boarding pods, slamming into enemy hulls. Within, human soldiers stormed corridors, their determination cutting through Krith defenders like fire through dry wood. Close combat filled the ships, brutal but decisive. For the first time in their history, the Krith were not the hunters. They were the hunted. A galaxy changed. After hours of battle, the void finally began to clear. Wreckage floated like black snow, ships burning silently in the endless dark. The Krith, broken and humiliated, pulled back. Their dreadnoughts limped away, dragging the shattered remnants of their fleet. Warlord Varric, furious but shaken, vowed vengeance. But he knew the Terrans were not prey. They were predators. On the other side, the Terran fleet regrouped. Damaged but standing, victorious. The Thalvori capital erupted in celebration. Lights filled the cities, voices rose in song and cheer. For the first time in weeks, they were not facing extinction. Kalen stood before the council, his voice steady. "The Terrans saved us. We owe them not only our survival, but our faith." Lurith bowed her head, humbled. "I misjudged them. I thought no one could stand against the Krith. I was wrong." Admiral Reyes' words on the bridge of the Valiant. Admiral Reyes addressed his crew. "Today we fought not for conquest, not for power. We fought because someone called for help and we answered. Remember this, humanity does not turn away. We are Deathworlders, and together we will make sure the galaxy knows it." His words echoed through the fleet. Tired, battered, but proud, the crews of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet stood taller. The Thalvorae had called, and humanity had come. The Krith had expected weakness, but they found fire. The galaxy itself had changed in a single day, and this was only the beginning. The void was never truly silent. Even when the guns stopped firing, the wreckage of battle whispered across the stars. Broken ships drifted. Sparks glowed faintly. The echoes of war lingered. For the Thalvorae, the sight was one of relief. The Krith fleet had been beaten back, their unstoppable advance broken. Across Valora's capital, lights burned bright in celebration. Children cheered in the streets. Families held each other, whispering words of thanks to the mysterious Terrans who had arrived like storms to save them. But Admiral Reyes knew the truth. The battle was not the end. It was only the beginning. The Krith warlord's fury on the flagship Korath. Warlord Varix's roar shook the command deck. His claws tore grooves into the steel floor as he paced before his trembling officers. "Deathworlders," he spat. "That is what they call themselves? Beasts from a cursed planet who dare to challenge us?" His strategist bowed low, fear in his eyes. "They are strong, Warlord. Their tactics are unpredictable. We underestimated them." Varix turned, his gaze burning like fire. "Then we will not underestimate again. Gather every dreadnought. Summon reinforcements from the Dominion's core fleets. I will show these Terrans what happens when they challenge the Krith." The order spread across Krith space. War drums echoed in every fortress. Shipyards released vessels half completed. Slave crews were driven harder, building weapons at impossible speed. The Dominion was moving with one purpose: to crush humanity. The Terran preparations. Meanwhile, the Terran Expeditionary Fleet did not rest. Though victorious, many ships carried scars from the first battle. Hulls were patched, weapons reloaded, engines repaired. Marines who had stormed Krith ships returned weary but unbroken. On the TNS Valiant, Admiral Reyes gathered his commanders. The holographic table glowed with maps of enemy movements. Red markers multiplied with alarming speed. "They're bringing everything," Captain Elena Rios muttered. "Good," Reyes said, calm but firm. "That means they see us as a threat. That means we did our job. Now we show them what humanity does when cornered." The officers exchanged grim looks, but none doubted. They had chosen this path together. The Thalvorae's shock in the council hall. The Thalvorae leaders received reports of Krith reinforcements gathering. Fear returned quickly. "They are too many," Counselor Lureth whispered. "Even the Terrans cannot fight such numbers." But Kalen stood straighter, his voice firm. "You saw them fight. You saw how they did not hesitate. The Terrans will not run, and if they stand, then so must we." For the first time, his words stirred something new in the council. Courage. Some leaders who had only known peace now spoke of resistance. Others offered ships, however small, to support the Terrans. The humans were not only fighting battles, they were changing hearts. The Krith counterattack. The storm came without warning. Dozens of Krith dreadnoughts surged into the system, their engines burning bright. Cruisers and frigates followed, wings of fighters spilling into the void. The Dominion had not come to raid this time. They had come to annihilate. Alarms blared through the Terran fleet. Crews rushed to battle stations. Engines roared to full power. Admiral Reyes gave his orders calmly, his voice steady across every channel. "Hold the line. No ship fights alone. Make them regret coming here." And then the second great battle began, the fury of the battle. The void erupted with light. Krith dreadnoughts unleashed torrents of plasma that scorched shields and melted armor. Terran cruisers answered with railguns, each shot punching holes in enemy hulls. Missiles streaked through space, detonating in blinding fireballs. But the Krith had numbers. They pressed forward like a tide, forcing Terran ships to scatter and regroup again and again. The TNS Horizon took a direct hit, flames ripping across her hull. Yet she kept firing until her guns glowed red. The Resolute rammed an enemy cruiser head-on, tearing it in two before limping away, broken but still alive. Fighter wings danced between capital ships. Terran pilots flew like madmen, diving into impossible maneuvers using debris as cover, tricking Krith fighters into crashing into their own ships. The Krith, disciplined but rigid, could not keep up. Still, the tide was heavy. The humans were fierce, but the Krith were endless. The boarding actions when Krith dreadnoughts pushed too close. Admiral Reyes gave the order that shocked even his own officers. Board them. Dozens of Terran boarding pods launched. Streaking through the void like fiery meteors, they slammed into enemy hulls, cutting through with drills and explosives. Hatches burst open and human marines stormed inside. The battles that followed were chaos, narrow corridors filled with smoke and fire. Marines fought hand-to-hand with towering Krith warriors. Their armor dented but their resolve unshaken. Captain Elena Rios led her squad through the bowels of a dreadnought, every step shaking under enemy fire. Krith soldiers charged, their strength overwhelming, but humans fought with cunning, using traps, grenades, and teamwork. They struck hard and vanished into shadows, appearing where least expected. On one deck, a Krith commander bellowed in triumph, towering over fallen Marines. But Rios leapt forward, striking with a blade as her squad fired in unison. The giant fell, the deck silent except for human breaths. The Krith had always believed no one could match their strength. Now they learned. Deathworlders were not only strong, they were relentless. The Thalvori witness. The Thalvori people watched the broadcasts in stunned silence. They had never imagined such warfare. To them, battles had always been ships firing at a distance, strategies planned with precision. But the humans fought differently. They threw themselves into danger. Boarded enemy ships turned weakness into strength. Counselor Lurith whispered as she watched a squad of humans storm a Krith control room. They fight as if they have no fear of death. Kalen answered quietly. It is not that they do not fear. It is that they fight despite fear. That is what makes them strong. Turning the tide after hours of brutal fighting, the tide began to shift. Krith dreadnoughts, once symbols of terror, fell one by one under human strikes. Boarding teams disabled reactors. Railgun barrages tore through weakened armor. Fighters picked off stragglers. The Krith formations wavered. For the first time, their discipline cracked. Captains shouted over each other. Ships retreated without orders. Admiral Reyes seized the moment. All ships, press forward. Break them. The Terran fleet surged as one. Missiles rained. Railguns thundered. Marines secured dreadnought after dreadnought. The Krith, who had once believed themselves invincible, now fled. The price of victory, but victory was not free. The Resolute burned, her crew evacuated in tears as their ship sank into the void. The Horizon, though alive, carried scars so deep she could barely move. Hundreds of Marines never returned from boarding missions. When the battle finally ended, silence fell again across the stars. Debris floated endlessly. Ships powered down, exhausted but alive. On the Valiant, Admiral Reyes stood quietly, his face lined with weariness. He looked at the reports of losses, then at the map showing Krith forces retreating. His voice was soft but steady. We held. Humanity held. The galaxy watches news of the battle spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, other civilizations whispered in disbelief. The Krith had been challenged and beaten not once but twice. Some feared the humans, whispering that such reckless warriors were as dangerous as the Krith. Others saw them as hope. Proof that the galaxy's strongest tyrants could be opposed. For the Thalvori, there was no doubt. Humanity had saved them again, though at great cost. Kalen addressed the council, his voice filled with conviction. The Terrans bleed, but they do not break. They have stood where no one else dared. If we wish to survive, we must learn from them. We must stand beside them. For the first time in their history, the Thalvori spoke not as victims, but as allies ready to fight. The Krith's fear in the Dominion's core worlds, Warlord Varric sat in silence. His armies had failed. His fleets had been broken. No one had ever done this to the Krith before. For the first time in his life, Varric felt something unfamiliar, something bitter. Fear. The void was a battlefield once more. After their retreat, the Krith Dominion gathered every available vessel. Their numbers far exceeded those of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. Warlord Varric had vowed vengeance, and nothing would stop him from exacting it. The Thalvori Union watched in fear. Their saviors, the humans, were preparing to meet this new storm, and yet even in their dread, hope lingered. The Terrans had already proven they were not ordinary. They were Deathworlders. The Final Order's Admiral, Marcus Reyes, stood on the bridge of the TNS Valiant, his gaze fixed on the expanding Krith fleet. Hundreds of dreadnoughts, thousands of fighters, and countless cruisers stretched across the void like a dark river of destruction. He turned to his commanders, his voice calm but commanding. Today we do not retreat. Today we do not falter. The Krith believe numbers make them strong. We will show them something stronger. Courage, strategy, and the will to fight when others flee. Captain Elena Rios clenched her fists. We are ready, sir. Every crew, every marine, every pilot. They will not break us, Reyes nodded. Then let us begin. The first wave as the Terran fleet moved forward, the Krith opened fire. Beams of plasma and streams of energy cut across space, striking shields and tearing through formations. Explosions bloomed like fire flowers, lighting the darkness with deadly beauty. But humanity had learned quickly. Terran ships twisted and shifted, using evasive maneuvers no rigid Krith system could anticipate. Railguns fired in precise bursts, striking enemy engines and weapon arrays. Missiles spiraled like living creatures, finding gaps in armor no one thought existed. The first wave of Krith fighters advanced to board the Terran ships, but Terran pilots met them head-on. Wings of sleek fighters darted among the enemy, outmaneuvering the Krith in every direction. Entire squadrons of Krith fighters were destroyed in minutes, their pilots screaming in disbelief. Even as their ships fell, the humans pressed forward. They fought not with fear, but with the unshakable certainty that they could not fail. The boarding storm Admiral Reyes gave the order that would shock even the hardened veterans of the fleet. Prepare boarding teams. Target dreadnoughts. Break them from the inside. Pods of human marines streaked through space like meteors. Each pod struck enemy hulls with explosive force, embedding themselves deep into the Krith dreadnoughts. The corridors inside were chaos. Smoke, fire, and alarms filled the air. Captain Rios led her squad through one dreadnought, her team moving with deadly efficiency. Every corner held an enemy, every hallway a trap. But the humans adapted. Using clever tactics, grenades, and sheer willpower, they overcame every obstacle. The Krith, once confident in their superiority, could not comprehend the ferocity of these Deathworlders. Towers of muscle and armor fell, control rooms were seized, and reactors were sabotaged. Within hours, entire dreadnoughts were disabled from the inside, leaving the Krith fleet in chaos. The Thalvore watch in awe on Velora, the Thalvore watched the live broadcasts. They had never imagined combat on such a scale. Ships collided, hulls tore open, energy tore through the void. And yet the humans never faltered. Children clung to parents as they witnessed boarding teams storm enemy vessels. Elders wept quietly at the courage displayed. For the first time, the Thalvore realized that the galaxy held species who could fight not only with weapons, but with sheer determination, Counselor Lurith whispered, voice shaking. They fight as if nothing can stop them, as if the Krith were nothing more than storms to be weathered. Kalen nodded slowly. No, they are more than storms. They are fire, and fire does not wait for permission. It burns through everything in its path. Breaking the Krith hours of relentless combat continued. Krith formations faltered. Commanders shouted in panic. Their superior numbers could not withstand the combination of Terran tactics, relentless boarding, and precise strikes on critical systems. Admiral Reyes watched as dreadnought after dreadnought fell. The Krith who survived began retreating, their formations broken and chaotic. He spoke to his fleet over the command channel. Press the advantage. Do not let them regroup. Strike fast. Strike hard. Remember who we are. Every ship, every fighter, every marine obeyed without hesitation. Humanity did not yield. Humanity did not hesitate. A final show of power, in a final decisive move, Admiral Reyes coordinated the fleet. Railguns fired in synchronized volleys that pierced multiple dreadnoughts at once. Missile swarms targeted engines and weapon systems. Boarding teams infiltrated key vessels. The Krith, exhausted and demoralized, could only retreat. Even Warlord Varix's flagship was not safe. Pods penetrated the hull, Marines stormed inside, and critical systems were destroyed. The ship limped away, retreating into Krith space, a symbol of defeat. Across the battlefield, human ships shone like black stars of determination. They had turned the tide completely. The Krith, once certain of victory, now fled in fear of species they had never imagined. The aftermath: when the dust settled, the Terran fleet regrouped. Many ships were damaged, hundreds of Marines were lost. Pilots and crew bore burns, bruises, and scars, but the victory was undeniable. The Thalvora Union had survived. Their homes were safe for now. Their people cheered and celebrated across the colonies. Families embraced, tears of relief streaming down faces that had known only despair for weeks. Counselor Kalen addressed the Thalvora people. The Terrans came when all hope seemed lost. They fought not for power, not for glory, but because we called for help. They have shown us what it means to stand and fight. They have shown us courage we never imagined. Lurith, who had once doubted, bowed her head in respect. We owe them our lives, and we owe them our faith. Humanity's words, Admiral Reyes addressed his fleet once more, his voice calm, steady, and proud. We answered a call. The galaxy will remember today, not because of our weapons, but because of our will to fight for what is right. Humanity does not abandon those in need. We are Deathworlders, and our fire burns wherever it is needed. The crew cheered, their spirits high despite fatigue and loss. They had fought the impossible and won. The Krith in retreat far in Krith space, Warlord Varric seethed. His fleets had been shattered. His strategy had failed. His soldiers were demoralized. For the first time, he realized a terrifying truth. The galaxy had awakened to a species that would not be controlled. The humans had shown the universe that courage, adaptability, and unyielding will could overcome sheer numbers. Varric vowed vengeance. But deep down, he knew the future would be far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. A galaxy awakened. The victory sent shockwaves through nearby systems. Other alien species took note. Whispers of humans and Deathworlders spread like wildfire. Some species feared them, unsure what humans might do next. Others celebrated them, hopeful that the galaxy had found a new protector. The Thalvora now had allies, not just in name, but in spirit. They began rebuilding, their faith in life and survival restored. And as they worked, they realized that a new chapter in the galaxy had begun. The future begins, in the quiet moments after battle. Admiral Reyes looked out at the stars. The fleets were battered, but still strong. The Thalvora were safe. Humanity had proven itself, but the galaxy was vast. There were other threats, other wars, and other cries for help waiting in the void. Reyes spoke softly, almost to himself. This is only the beginning. Wherever the call comes, wherever hope is needed, humanity will answer. We are the fire in the dark, and we do not go quietly. The Terran fleet powered up, engines glowing, ready to return to home or to answer the next call. Somewhere in the stars, civilizations whispered the name of the blue planet that had changed everything. Earth, the Deathworlders. The galaxy would never forget the day humans arrived.